and in our own unexamined truths. I think about that term social quite a bit, coming from an institution that waved flags in Chicago, academic excellence and social justice. And I said, wow, I found home. The next month, within a month, I was getting out of my car and the flags rang, academic excellence, social concern. So I immediately became concerned. So I set out on a quest to try and discover why that change was made. And my concern now is that we're just becoming social. Social justice requires us to act, requires us to do something about it. It's much more than just having a concern. And what our panels have reminded us today is that as we go into classrooms to teach, we bring with us all the best of the world and all the rest of the worst of the world with us. And that it is our charge as teachers to help people get into the deeper things, to open their minds, their hearts, and the whole, to see the whole. But that's tough work. And so you talked about Paul Freire and Teachers as Cultural Workers, which was a book that I used to require all of my social studies students to read and Mankato. And I've understood from some of them that they have passed it on to their grandparents who were teachers, and they carry it around. But one of the things that I learned from him is that teaching equals learning, learning equals teaching. So that notion of that adult centricity is quite a piece. And I'd like to quote a 12-year-old from the UK who wrote this beautiful letter and with the Children's Right Play. She says, adults think they're the best people on earth. So part of that justice is coming out of ourselves to recognize the wisdom of the people that we have sitting in our classrooms and what they bring to the table as well. I've learned most of what I know about peace and justice from 5 and 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds. Much more than what I had learned from just the raw notion of just fighting. I've learned about peace and how to accept and receive people from that. So as I think about Paul Freire, teaching equals learning, learning equals teaching, take that with you. He also said not to let the fear of what is difficult paralyze you. And that's a very powerful phrase, because this work can get really tiring, very frustrating, and we tolerate quite a bit.
Yes.
And you know, we tolerate dentistries, which means we only put up with that stuff all of it. And so if we're trying to have deeper reverence of humanity, Sonia Netto would remind us that we have to go through that tolerance to get to the acceptance, to get to the respect before we can move. But we are in the process of being. It's a journey of becoming, which means we come back to that vast interior landscape of the self and what we have to bring. Teaching is it's much more about learning about self than it is about learning about the students sometimes, because they know who they are and they're authentic and intelligent. So, and we also learn the importance of not just the verbal, but the nonverbal. And that's a piece that most people forget. Because when you look like me, especially if you have this and these, you learn how to read the environment, not through just the spoken word. You read the environment from the nonverbal. And that's the most powerful piece that tells you whether or not you're accepted or not. And how you can negotiate a terrain. So if you haven't already taken any courses over there in the communications department, I would encourage you to read E.T. Hall's Silent Language, because it will help us understand the power of nonverbal cues and what that means in our speech. It's often not what we say, but what we're not saying that is the most powerful piece. So let us thank our panel. We have about 5 minutes, and I, as a moderator, don't like to leave with the last word. So I want to just open it up now and ask our panel if there's something else burning within you that you want to say or share with